Man arrested for threatening to kill the president. This is undiluted news. Mikey Bones reporting. A man who was accused of crashing a U-Haul truck into a security barrier near the White House on Monday night praised Adolf Hitler after his arrest and said that he aimed to kill the president according to court documents. Syversit Kandula, 19 years old of Chesterfield, Missouri, is now in custody and has been charged in federal court with one count of depredation of property of the United States in excess of $1,000. U.S. Park Police originally arrested Kandula on several charges, including threatening to kill or harm the president, the vice president, or family members, and it's possible that prosecutors will add additional charges as the case progresses. He is held in custody without bail. A group of Chinese citizens working and living in Florida is challenging a new law that bans them from buying property in the state. According to the suit, the ban would also affect Chinese Americans and people of Asian descent. The legislation applies to owning property within 10 miles of a critical infrastructure facility and also bars foreign entities such as Russians, North Koreans, Venezuelans, and Syrians from owning property in Florida. And those zones include airport, military installations, spaceports, electrical power plants, or seaport. The new law makes it a felony for Chinese citizens or companies to buy property or for a person or a company to knowingly sell to any of them. Over in Jamaica, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that he will forego his salary increase under the compensation package announced last week by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. He made the announcement during a press conference on Monday evening. The Prime Minister, who spoke for more than an hour, spent most of the time trying to justify the increase granted to members of the political directorate. While the salaries of the cabinet ministers will remain, Mr. Holness said he will forego his increase and continue to receive his current salary, which is set at $9.2 million. And this is just a ploy to fool the Jamaican public. Closed-circuit television footage has led to the arrest and charge of a 30-year-old man who was allegedly caught stealing several items from a bar on Bay Road in Wakefield in Trelawney on Thursday, February 2nd. Charges Sheldon Lawrence of Moore Park in Adelphi in St. James. Reports are that about 10:30 p.m. Lawrence, along with other perpetrators, broke into the bar and stole several items. Among the list of items stolen were a 32-inch television, a soundbox, alcoholic beverage, and $20,000 in cash. The items are valued at more than $200,000. A report was made to the police and Lawrence was subsequently arrested following a review of the footage and statement collected. Investigators are now continuing in an effort to nab the other suspects. A lone gunman shot and injured a man along Michael Manley Boulevard in the vicinity of Doncaster in Kingston 2 on Monday, then engaged a passing policeman in a daring shootout before escaping in nearby bushes. And the incident happened about 1 o'clock according to police report. Reports are that the cop driving a coaster bus traveling in a westerly direction along the Michael Manley Boulevard observed a man lying on the ground along the roadway while another man was shooting at him. The cop alighted from the bus, identified himself, and the gunman immediately opened fire in his direction. Forced to take evasive action, the cop then returned fire, an action which allowed the injured man to crawl towards the bus and escape. The gunman sprinted towards nearby bushes while still shooting at the policeman and managed to escape into the Doncaster community, according to police report. The injured man was assisted to the Kingston Public Hospital by the police. It was then realized that the gunman was reportedly injured during the shooting after he left a trail of blood into the community. The police later recovered a red shirt from a premises which they believe the suspect had been wearing at the time of the attack. The police are now actively seeking this suspect. That means he have a shot in him, and depending on where it is, he might be going to the hospital for treatment soon, so the police might soon be able to apprehend him. 3 people were shot, 2 fatally at George's Plain in Westmoreland on Monday night. The deceased have been identified as 46-year-old Ryan Williams, otherwise called Bad Cooley, and 26-year-old Ted Roy Chase, otherwise called Teddy, both laborers of the community. The injured woman is being treated at hospital. Reports from the police are that about 9:45 p.m., the woman was sitting on her veranda while Williams and Chase were sitting at the front of the yard having a conversation. Shortly after, loud explosions were heard coming from the front of the yard, and all 3 individuals ran in separate directions. When the shooting subsided, it was discovered that the female received gunshot wounds to her groin and left thigh, Williams to his abdomen, while Chase received multiple gunshot wounds all over his body. The police were summoned, and upon their arrival, the 3 victims were transported to hospital where Chase and Williams were pronounced dead. No motive has been established for that shooting. Meanwhile, a Hanover man was killed by a gunman on Monday. He's 27-year-old Devarado McCollum. It's reported that Mr. McCollum was at a shop in the Ramble community when he was attacked and shot. The attacker escaped in a waiting motor vehicle. The police were alerted and Mr. McCollum was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. On to sports. Harborview Football Club head coach Ludlow Bernard is relieved to have guided his team into the semi-final of the Jamaica Premier League but was not pleased with the performance on Monday evening. The Stars of the East endured a nerve second leg quarter-final against Andrew Price's Humber Lions, who won 3-2 on the day, but Humber Lions lost 3-4 on aggregate. And this is because Harborview had won the first game 2-0. Harborview now faced 2021 champion Cavalier, who received a bye from their preliminary round finish. In the other game, Mount Pleasant beat Dunbehold 3-0 with an aggregate of 4-1 and will now face top shotter Arnett Gardens in the semi-final. NBA, the Miami Heat played a bad game last night, giving life to the Boston Celtics, who beat them 116-99 last night and giving Boston bragging rights to a home game tomorrow in Boston. The Heat shooting was poor, but the turnover was worse, with the Heat committing 16 turnovers, resulting in 27 points to the Celtic. Boston star Jason Tatum scored 33 points, scorching the Heat in an unstoppable performance. However, in order for Boston to survive, they would have to win 3 more games in a row, which has never happened in the NBA playoff. No team has ever come back from being 3-0 down in the history of the NBA, so they are fighting against all odds. And if you ever missed the news on this radio station, please go to YouTube, type in Jamaican Undiluted News, listen, like, share, and subscribe, and keep us going. My name is Mikey Bones. I gone.